Welcome to the So Much More podcast, where we talk with people in the custom window treatment, soft home furnishings industry, and so much more. I'm your host, Seal DeGuglielmo. My guest on the podcast today is Lindsey Kronmiller. She is the owner of Kron House Custom Works in Durham, North Carolina. After moving back to Durham from Atlanta, Lindsey sought a new career that combined textiles and project management skills, leveraging her background in technical theater production and entertainment marketing. With the help of a creative career coach, her eyes were open to the world of custom fabrication. She launched her custom soft furnishing studio in the beginning of 2023 with the support of an incredible network of mentors, teachers, family, and friends, including a trip to the Custom Workroom Conference without actually having a business. I really hope that you enjoy hearing from Lindsey today. Lindsey, good morning, and thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. It's so nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
It's my pleasure. I do love to talk with some of the newer and younger people in our industry to hear the differences in how they got started. And you have a background that I didn't actually realize the depth of until you sent me your bio, and hear about what it's been like for you to start your business and what your plans are for the future. So welcome. And have you tell me a little bit about yourself, your life, where you are in the world, and then we'll get into your business.
Yeah. So I live in Durham, North Carolina. I grew up here. I was born here. And then I went away for college. I went to California for school. But before that, I went to an arts magnet high school, where it was mostly performing arts, but I was really gravitated towards technical theater. And I had a wonderful, wonderful teacher that really just changed my life. He just put so much confidence into me in a world of technical theater wasn't very girl or woman oriented, especially in my high school. So he really just helped me learn about marrying arts and technical abilities and working with power tools and all kinds of stuff. I had a great time. It was a very informative time in my life. So I went to college to study technical theater and had, I'd say, not the best program, which led me to joining my college radio department, where I've always loved music, and growing up, of course, it's part of your life, just learning about bands. And so I ended up getting a job right out of college at a record label here in North Carolina when I moved back home after college. And I was doing college radio promotion. So I would call all the college radio stations in the country and promote our bands to them, and setting up sessions and interviews for them and promoting their tour dates. It was really fun. It was a small independent record label. And it really taught me a lot about, kind of the DIY part of owning a business. It was independently owned by two people in the area, and they really grew from the ground up. And then I had to move to Atlanta about 2017 for my husband's job. So I was kind of lost at that point, after having a job for about 12 years where I felt like my job was a big part of my identity. So I took some time off, and I really spent a lot of time crafting, sewing, doing my hobbies that I didn't really have a lot of time to do before. And I ended up working at a television network in Atlanta, kind of doing a similar thing, marketing TV shows. And that didn't last too long. We moved back to Durham during COVID. And again, I found myself with time on my hands and not a lot of direction. So I ended up actually working with a career coach to find what could be my next move.
I saw that in your bio, and I'm really curious and interested to ask you about that.
Yeah. So I just found myself in the trap of applying for similar jobs,
Mm-hmm.
marketing, and like arts related marketing. And it was very aimless.
Okay.
And I didn't want to fall in the trap of getting a job similar to my last ones, but diminishing returns with maybe less connection to them.
Okay.
So yeah, I worked with a career coach and we thought about a lot of different opportunities related to textiles, but the act of making and the process of making,
Okay.
which led me to actually reaching out to Workroom Tech. I found a class for soft furnishings. I didn't know this world existed 3 years ago. So
Okay.
I had no idea where things like this were made. I thought they were made in mostly bigger
Okay.
facilities. So I reached out to Susan about taking a class. It didn't work out, but she said, come to CWC. And I ended up going in, I guess it was the 2022,
Okay.
where everywhere I sat down, people were like, tell me about your business. And I was like, I don't have a business. But it was obviously very eye-opening. And it just from the time where my career coach was like, just go, just explore it,
Mm-hmm.
learn about what this is. Cause she didn't know. She was just like a coach, you know?
Right.
But in the time where I came back, it was clear that this was a great direction for me.
Okay.
So I spent the next like 3 or 4 months shadowing people and learning more about everything, and then deciding that starting to do it on my own was the best route for me rather than
Okay.
working with someone. So that was then the beginning of 2023, I started my
Okay.
business.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually don't get the opportunity to work with people who are quite this new in the business. So for me, it's just so exciting to hear the path and the journey that you took to get here. And I know that you are not the only person who's ever gone to CWC without having a business. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about I know what it was like the first time I went to a conference in this world. What was your reaction like going into, and how did you choose which classes when you
Yeah.
didn't have a business? I'm
Yeah.
curious about that.
I just remember like so much of it was foreign language feeling, but
Yeah.
also being like, wow, like I took Nancy Lutz's zipper class
Okay.
and I was like, I had no idea like the technical side of zip. Like I'd use zippers
Right.
in clothing sewing, but never liked using them, and just I didn't even know what self-welt was, like I
Right.
was at
Right.
that new. I didn't and I took a few online courses around there with Workroom Tech, but it was all so fresh to me. And I remember,
Right.
I think that was the year that you had a class on iPad.
Elke
And
and I did the
yeah.
class together. Yes.
And then there was another class about your exit strategy.
Yes.
And I actually was like interested in that because that showed me more of like the lifetime, like the journey of people in this
Yes.
industry. But I was like, maybe it's too soon for that. So I
Since I
didn't end
don't
up
actually
taking.
have a business yet.
Yeah, exactly.
But that I find that fascinating that you at least considered that you could have a business long enough that you'd need to think about that.
Yeah, it was really I just figured I'd do like a smattering. I could see it was like upholstery, workroom, business.
Hmm.
So I tried to take, one of each and kind of feel my way around. What do I think might be important? A lot of my time at that point was going on the Facebook groups and just bookmarking posts that I didn't quite understand.
Yeah.
Saying, I think I might need this in the future.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, just for reference, my very first class was an Empire swag
Oh,
class. and I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why I signed up for it, but I signed up. I found out about this conference. It was in my area, so I could drive to it every day instead of staying in a hotel. And I found out it literally like 2 days before and didn't even know what classes I was
Oh,
signing up
yeah.
for. So I got myself situated. I'm like, wait, what class is this? What's an Empire Swag?
Yeah.
So those words can be a little overwhelming when you don't know what they mean. And sometimes there's multiple words for the same thing. So
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm curious about what your mindset was going into all of this, Lindsey.
It was very, like, I'm not a very freewheeling person.
Okay.
So I really tried my best just to be like, just take it in. You don't have to commit to anything.
Okay.
But I was just really shocked about how many people I met who work for themselves. They are not taking on staff, renting space, stuff like that really scared me because I thought the majority of people did that.
Right.
But I was definitely like curiosity and, general interest.
Okay.
And it was exciting. And one of the first people I met was actually through your podcast. One of the first episodes I listened to the podcast. I don't know how I found it. Maybe through Workroom Tech.
Okay.
Was Kathy Cuddington at Dogwood Designs.
Yes.
And I listened and she's like, I live in Apex, North Carolina, which is 30 minutes from me.
Okay.
So I reached out to her and I asked if she'd be at CWC. And she said yes. And I think it was in Nancy's zipper class. I sat down and I heard someone say, has anyone met this Lindsey Kronmiller? And I was like, oh, that's me. I was right next to her. So it was just so like, pieces seemed to fall into place and everyone was so welcoming. When they said, what is your business like? I said, I don't have one yet. And they'd say, or I don't have one. And they'd say, yet, right? You're going to start one, right? So it just felt very natural,
Okay.
more than, you get a feeling if something's not right. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And the things that you're saying about our industry and the people that you met, that none of those come as a surprise to me. I hear them from
right.
everyone, but I do still get a chill when someone's talking about it because I realize what a difference that can make for someone. Like, what if you had overheard Kathy saying, has anybody met the Lindsey person? She's been bugging me and I don't want to talk to her.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine if you had sat down in a class and said, somebody said, oh, what's your business? And you said, I don't have one. They were like, well, what the hell are you doing here? Like,
Right.
there's so many things that are subtle about the kindness and the welcoming that is in our industry that I do sometimes take it for granted and forget what an impact it can have on people. So,
yeah.
So you've gone to CWC, you recognize, okay, people are working for themselves by themselves. They're not all in, gigantic warehouses with thousands of square feet of rental space. How did you say to yourself, I can do this? And what did you do first?
What did I do? Well, I mostly, through Kathy, I met the local WCAA folks. She invited me to their monthly meeting before I was a member. And actually, that was their planning meeting for the following year. And they sat down and said, well, we need a secretary for next year. And I said, I'll do it. So that was helpful to meet the group of people in our area. And then that opened me up to inviting myself to their workrooms and learning from them. I knew that I needed a lot more like day-to-day technical, like how does it work,
Okay.
rather than taking a one-off class to really get an understanding of what goes into it. What are the supplies that you need? So I did that for basically all of 2023.
Okay.
I worked in Julia Hash's studio, which is great to see another business model of having employees and
Right. As well as products, because she
Yeah.
sells the rulers. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
And Kathy introduced me to Sandra Van Sickle, who was working on the artisan project for
Yeah.
IWCE. So
Hmm.
that was really nice to see another side of it, the more creative concept
Hmm.
design element of window treatments. So a lot of things like that, I just really took my time. I knew I didn't have workload, so
Right.
I really treated it like a job. I would go at least 3 days a week, I think, to someone's studio
Okay.
and help them, or just I would just like do the utility work at Julia's and then go to someone else's, and like Kathy showed me how to do cornices and stuff
Okay.
like that. So
What a great education, Lindsay,
yeah,
and a great opportunity. I mean, I know anytime I get to be in someone else's workroom, the first thing I'm doing, how do they store this? Where do they put this? What
yeah,
do they have at their sewing machines? What brand of what do they have?
right.
So I can imagine that, not like I go into it with my experience and what I have in my workroom. You're trying to take it all in. Did it ever feel overwhelming?
Oh yeah. One of the hardest parts was deciphering or kind of sorting through everyone's opinions about what you should be doing,
Right.
especially as a totally new. I'm a
Yeah.
clean slate, right? So people just really thought they could tell me this is how you do it, and it was on
Okay.
me to figure out that's how they do it. It
Right.
might not work for me, and then taking the time to really try. I tried to try everyone's suggestions, but then figure out what did work for me over
Right.
time. That was really hard to listen to your own gut,
Yeah.
and realize that everyone's situations are different. Everyone has different equipment.
Right.
um, I was lucky that we had an unfinished space over our garage. So I quickly identified that as a great work spot. Like, it's a
Yeah.
great unused space, but it was unfinished. In North Carolina, the summer is very hot.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought I could wait a couple years to build up some money and finish it off. But I think I did that like in September of the first
Okay.
year. So it didn't take very long. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to work in here full time.
Okay.
But that was just interesting because it's like, okay, well, how do I set up my space? Seeing what other people have done.
Yeah.
I also, the first year, because I knew I had time, I took a lot of classes. So I
Mhm.
went to Workroom Tech and took Anne's efficiency class.
That is a great class for you to have taken. Okay.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about like workroom layout and setup. So that was very helpful for me in the beginning, and knowing I had spatial constraints.
Hmm.
But what can I take from that, from her teachings, and try to do it from the beginning rather
Right.
than piecemeal it later.
Right.
So,
It's interesting, Lindsay, because I think to have an opportunity to take that class so early in your business had to be helpful. But I'm also thinking when I first started, I was very much alone and figuring things out with library books and when online finally became available. But when I met my local workrooms, I was already doing some things. And so if I did have the opportunity to go, or if we had an instructor come in, my first reaction was, oh, that's how I have to do that now.
uh-huh.
And I didn't have that confidence to say, oh, that won't work in my workroom. And I would come back from a class and go, okay, well, how do I make this work? And my confidence built up over the years. And I would go to a class and go, well, that's interesting, but that is not going to work for me. And the first time I said that, I was like, oh, okay. All right. I'm starting to have a little more confidence in myself. But I also recognize, and it was at Anne's workroom skills class, Elke Horn hosted us, and 30 years in the business, and she learned new things. And
Yeah.
there were things that Anne demonstrated, and Elke would try them, and she'd say, "Yeah, I can't teach my ladies to do this. This works better for us to do it our way." But
Right.
being open to ideas and seeing, oh, well, that works for Julia because.
Right.
But in my workroom, it's going to work better this way. And I admire that confidence is there for you, that you don't just keep trying to do it everybody else's
Uh,
way. I think that's great.
well, I think that's, a blessing of my situation is that I've had so many amazing mentors in the short amount of time that I've been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful that like I have such a great network of people that I can
Yeah,
call on, and everyone is in a different situation. So it's been great to learn from everyone.
that's
So
great.
yeah,
I love that.
I never really felt isolated in that way.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's
Oh,
been great.
good. All right. So you have this amazing opportunity to learn, work with other people. How did you determine what your business model was going to be? What is it? And how did you get started from going to their workrooms to being in your workroom?
Yeah, so I think in the beginning I was very much like, I don't know, I'll just try everything, you know. I'm sure a lot of people are like that. I mean, I even considered upholstery when I was working with the career coach,
Mhm.
but then realized like realistically my space isn't
Gotcha.
great for that.
Hmm.
So I did start with mostly retail clients
Okay.
from referrals. I did a lot of, I put my business card up at Joann's and I
Okay.
got a few jobs from that. Um, and I kind of, took what I could get because I wanted the experience more than, you know, saying these are my hard and fast prices because I really
Right.
didn't know yet. And I'm in a situation where luckily no one's relying on me to pay the bills. I mean, I am at this point, which is great.
Right. That's
But in the
awesome.
beginning, I felt like I had the freedom to kind of test things out. And if it
Okay.
didn't work, then it was okay.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, referrals, folks would send, like people in our group would send people to me when it seemed like something I could handle. And then I would
Okay.
inevitably ask them questions like, how do I do, how do I do this bed canopy? I don't know. I don't even know what you call it, you know?
Right. Right. I don't know how to ask
And
because I
they're
don't know
like,
what it
it's
is.
fine. You can do it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. So yeah, I mostly started with retail clients and then was referred by some people for a few designers.
Hmm.
So I do both right now, retail
Okay.
and designer work. Um, and I'd say it's like most, maybe 75% designers.
Okay.
Someone in our area just retired doing slipcovers, so she's referred to me out a lot for
You,
those big.
you said you've been doing a lot of slipcovers lately, and I
Yeah,
know one recently was really a challenge for
yeah,
you.
yeah. I mean, and slipcovers I feel like are such a different skill set
Yes.
from window treatments and cushions. I mean, cushions, but um, they've been, I kind of put it out into the world. I was like, I want to learn these. And then, inevitably people come to you and say, oh, I heard you were
Yeah.
interested. Yeah. So yeah, that's been fun, but I'm still kind of, I think that's been a big challenge for me is being more intentional about what your policies are
Okay.
and what you're willing to kind of say, I'll take that, but
Yeah.
um, and also really sticking to your instincts about business policies with designers,
Yes.
and figuring out in the beginning I kind of assumed everyone knew more than I did. um, like they're
Interesting.
a designer,
Yeah.
they've been in business for a while, they must know how to measure
Yeah.
or what's an appropriate fabric. um, but it took me a while to figure out that's not necessarily true.
Right.
So
That's definitely not necessarily true. And
yeah.
we've all learned that.
Yeah, yeah.
So you'd say that's one of your biggest challenges is that setting
Yeah.
boundaries and all that. Okay.
Yeah, and I know we've talked a bit off air about like saying fabrication only versus full service.
Right.
I've realized some people will just take your time and maybe they don't realize they're doing it.
Right.
Maybe they do, but they're going to take it if they can get it. So a lot of it is for me really sticking to what I think is right for my business.
Mm-hmm.
And also realizing that my time is valuable and the knowledge that I've really spent a lot of time gaining in the last 2 or 3 years
Yes.
is also valuable. Even though I haven't been doing it forever, I've really spent a lot of time researching products and hardware and what's appropriate, what's not.
Right. And you've spent money on your education.
Yes, I have actually spent a fair amount on my education because I take this very seriously. And for me, that's a way to really feel like I'm developing my professional career, So that's been really challenging.
Okay.
Yeah.
The sponsors of the So Much More podcast allow me to bring guests to you each week. And without them, I couldn't do it. I'm pleased as the owner of the Curtains and Soft Furnishings Resource Library that I can use the library to help sponsor the podcast as well. The library hosts the industry's largest curated collection of educational resources for the custom home furnishings professional. Membership to the library gives you access to a wealth of downloadable reference materials, videos, live events, as well as a community of support to help you develop your design, sales, and fabrication skills, and to grow or start a business. Join the library today at csfrl.org. The Workroom Channel is the premier online training provider for professional fabrication skills. Go to theworkroomchannel.com to browse the selection of anytime access courses created by industry experts. Watch detailed demonstration videos, download companion materials, and participate in private course discussion boards with your instructor and classmates from around the world. Start your course path today at theworkroomchannel.com. Education, networking, visibility, and industry discounts are just a few of the benefits that are offered to members of the Window Covering Association of America. The WCAA is the only national nonprofit trade association that's dedicated to the window coverings industry and the dealers, decorators, workrooms, designers, and installers that make up our membership. The library is a gold level sponsor of the WCAA. Join today at WCAA.org. WCAA, where you are never in business alone. Discover Klamaka Studios, where innovation meets exceptional design. Klamaka fabric and wallpaper collections are inspired by the original works of collaborating artists and developed with the understanding of how fabrics are manipulated into exquisite soft home furnishings. Workroom businesses enjoy exclusive access to engineered designs and best trade pricing. From clever layouts to classic linen prints, Klamaka Studios delivers the quality and consistency that your business demands. And Klamaka's reliable, on-time delivery keeps your projects running smoothly. Go to klamakastudios.com for swatches and trade account information. Klamaka Studios, for the joy and profit of workrooms. What would you say is your definition of success?
Let me pull up notes. I really think it's more doing the job that you set out to do from the beginning and being satisfied with that. And knowing that what you're going to give your clients is meeting their expectations as well. And not, I guess that's a very basic it's just satisfaction in a way. I feel like too much of the time is spent overreaching, mentally, if not, and that is kind of it affects you in a negative way, at least for me. So I try to look for that satisfaction level, more than like, wow, I mean, everyone's happy, not, I mean, when you get negative feedback, it's usually something very specific and sometimes not related to anything you did.
Right.
So, and it's way too easy for me to harp on that for myself and get stuck in the negative. So reaching for that like satisfaction level to me is a success. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm kind of getting a feeling already that you're a little bit hard on yourself.
I think I just get stuck in that mental cycle.
Okay.
Which, there's good therapy things that you can do for that.
Yes, there are. We all need them.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely just, when a designer calls you and says, hey, there's a problem, your mind just spirals to like, oh my God, what did I do? You're like, how am I going to fix it? And you don't even know what it is, you're just totally overthinking things. So
yeah. The one question I did learn to ask is, okay, how can we fix this, or to find out what the expectations were before I spiraled out of control and ripped things off the wall and completely remade them. Like sometimes it really was, well, I just wish it moved over a little bit further. Oh, I can do
that. Yeah, it's definitely that's what's missing sometimes is the
pause.
Get to the point where we're talking about the same thing,
Right. So have you ever considered quitting, Lindsey?
Yes, usually 4 a.m. when I'm like, maybe I just won't do this thing that I promised someone. And then I'm like, no, that's not good form. I can at least just finish that and then not take any more. And then you're like, well, what would I do?
Yeah. What would I do?
Yeah. You get way too used to, having a queue and having things on the calendar and knowing that there's some estimates out in the world. But I did go into this thinking I could do it part-time, but it's quickly not been that. And I definitely underestimated the amount of like business ownership time that things would take. Yeah. So
how do you manage for that? Do you time block? Do you do it as you think of it? Do you procrastinate like me and stop fabricating and go work on business?
I will do that if I have something, like if it's in my mind that I need to get it down on paper. But I usually do that when I'm too physically tired to fabricate.
Okay.
So after dinner, I can't work at nights. I get too pooped out. So
yeah, you and me both.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to cut any more stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be nice if I could time block more, but I usually know I can spend 2 or 3 hours at night and knock it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm curious with your background, and you asked the question, well, what else would I do? What would you do if one of those mornings was really bad and you said, yep, this is the last one? Would you take what would you do? I shouldn't put thoughts in your mind.
I don't know. I mean, I came into this because I just love textiles and sewing and, the tactile feel of fabrics. I always thought about like, kind of more the retail side of things, but I'm not real interested. It's always been more about the making and then sending it out into like being done with it,
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I just, sit on my butt. Not do anything.
So if success for you means that satisfaction of the job done and making the client happy, what's been your greatest success so far in your business?
I mean, cumulatively, I think is really treating this like a business from the beginning, and in such a short period. To me, it feels like not very much time. It's only been 2 years that I've been doing this. And I really feel like personally I've met my personal expectations
Okay.
of having a professional level business, which I never considered owning a business before talking to that career coach. So that to me is, that's the big thing that I've been able to accomplish, even though it's cumulative and, yeah.
So education is clearly important to you. What would you say has been the most important class you took? And are there any books that you've read that have been helpful for you?
Well, definitely the draperies class with Terry Sandlin. I went into that having made drapery and even doing it with other workrooms. And actually people teased me for taking that class. They're like, don't you already know? And I was like, but I feel like I need to know and spend days just talking about it. I really think that was like a foundational class for me. The and efficiency class it was just so in depth. It was great.
Yeah, I agree. That one I think is, especially if you can take it early in your your business journey, like it just sets you up for success.
Yeah, for sure. Some of the books I read, Profit First, early on, and when I set up I didn't set up the 7 bank accounts, but I do a budgeting software called YNAB. So I set up my whole business budget that way. And it was great. I mean, as soon as I started taking jobs and being paid for them, I was paying myself from the beginning.
Awesome.
Which I don't think would have happened otherwise.
Okay, good. I'm happy to hear that.
Another book was I think it's called 12-Week Year.
Yes.
It's kind of like quarterly planning. Yeah, I really liked that one because when things felt very overwhelming in the beginning, like, what do I focus on? What's important? All those things, and breaking it down into a smaller time was helpful to me.
Okay. Yeah, I read that book and I enjoyed it as well. Lindsey, do you use much technology in your business?
I do. It's all pretty basic, but I use Apple Notes for all my work order and client files. And when I go to measure, I just take a picture and draw on the photo and put everything in that file. I also really like Mile IQ. It's a mileage tracking app. Every time I see my dad, he says, "Have you been tracking your miles?" And I'm like, "Yes, Dad."
And I don't even have to think about it.
Yeah, those are the 2 big ones, I think.
Okay. So I'm curious about, especially having taken Anne's class and learning about different things. What are the 3 items that you could not live without? And they could be business or workroom related, whichever you feel most attracted to.
Yeah. Mostly, I think it's all basic. It's a calculator, the 60-inch ruler, and really just a pencil. I mean, marking things is like, just use a pencil. You're going to cut it anyway,
Yeah. I am astounded. We talk about this a lot, that, technology helps us with our business, but on a day-to-day basis of fabricating, there's not a whole lot of technology involved.
No.
And what would take us a lot longer, but we could do everything that we do by hand. And sometimes it's just rewarding that a pencil, paper, and calculator are best friends at the work table.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's like as many new gadgets as you get, it's all unitaskers,
Yeah. I am a bit of a gadget freak, but sometimes they're sitting there on my table. I go, yeah, I'm not going to be using that. Lindsay, do you sew for pleasure at all?
I haven't been since I started,
Yeah.
which is sad. I would love to. I bookmark patterns and fabric all the time. I just,
Okay. Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Well, you'll have to join the Pick a Project challenge and
I
do something
know,
for
I should.
yourself.
Yeah.
And one of the things we say is, do you have anything bookmarked that you haven't
Uh,
done?
yeah.
What is your favorite thing to make in the workroom?
I think cushions,
Okay.
they're challenging in a different way, but you can still like complete one in, a couple hours.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I mean, just even if someone already has an old cushion, I just help someone. They moved into a new house and there is some sad looking bench cushions in a window seat that could have been so inviting. And you just looked at them and you're like, they're
No.
not doing anyone any
Yeah.
favors. So just revive like new fabric and new foam. Such a
Yeah.
big difference.
Yeah. And makes it an inviting spot. I love
Yeah.
that.
It's also something where I feel like it's really hard for people to buy it off the internet. I've had a few clients where they actually made a template of their window seat. It was a trapezoid, and they
Mhm.
sent it to someone on Etsy, and what they got back was not meant for
Oh,
that space.
oh,
I was
that's
like, yeah,
unfortunate.
I know. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, I know. And that's why you hire a professional.
yeah.
What do you do extremely well?
Um, Research.
Okay. No, that's a good one.
Yeah. I'll say I can research something to death. Like,
That sounds like procrastination to me.
yeah. Yeah. I definitely get stuck at the action part of
Okay.
things. But I feel like I love knowing where my resources are and
Okay.
how to go back to them.
Okay. We're going to call it procrasti-searching. I'm trying to add to my
Yeah.
vocabulary of procrastination. What do you not do so well, Lindsay?
Um, I would say uh maybe being more articulate about my reason why I'm doing things. I'm not very empathetic on the outside, you know? I don't sound like I understand you and you know what I'm
Okay,
saying? Like
I haven't gotten that from you, but I understand what you're saying. Okay.
I think I can be kind of short with people and not
Okay.
explain myself well.
Okay.
That's something I'm working on. But
Okay.
and a lot of it is, I think, goes back to not maybe understanding like where people are in the world, and
Mhm.
meeting you where you need to be and then sticking to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
That's a challenge, I think, for
yeah.
all of us. But
Yeah.
that's so funny because that is not anything I've ever thought about you before. What do you love best about the business so far?
I love the marriage of creativity and the technical side of it. It really speaks to me. It's really
I love
interesting.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially because of your technical experience in high school. That's
Yeah.
just I wrote down that phrase. I love that.
Yeah. It really is interesting to me. And
Okay.
it's not what I thought it would be. Learning about hardware and measuring and geometry is not the thing that I was focused on in the beginning.
Okay.
And then I saw, oh yeah, there's a lot to learn there and
Yeah.
really use it to your advantage to make sure that the creative side comes to life. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Love that. What do you not love so much about this business?
I don't love that you really just have to like keep up with everything. The paperwork, the
Yeah.
business, the taxes, all of it, if you're doing it on your own. And even if you have a team of people, it's still on you to
Oh yeah.
organize and facilitate. I wish that some days that you could just really focus on one thing for a week
Yeah.
and lay off everything else for a week, but it's
Yeah.
kind of for me, it hasn't been that way. So finding time to better time block is probably something I should work on.
I feel like I heard a story once that was at an industry event where a person had grown their business and they were so relieved because they did not have to worry about all this stuff. They had people who did it for them, and they found out their bookkeeper had left or got fired. I don't remember. They had a new bookkeeper, and several months afterwards, they came to the owner and said, "Who are these people on the phone line? I can't find them." And they had been paying for the phone bill for an entire family who did not work for the business. And he said, and that was my valuable lesson of, I might not have to do everything every day, but I still have to pay attention to what's going on. Like probably years of paying for somebody else's phone. So yeah, there are times when I go, you know what, I should pay somebody to know. Like I'd still have to watch what they were doing. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious to ask someone in your part of this journey. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Probably working from my same space, but hopefully more organized. And I would love to have like a utility worker, someone to help just a few hours a week, to help me make room for more of the business, side of things. I've also realized that so much time of my work week is driving to appointments. And it just really cuts down on production time.
Yes.
So yeah, I could see that happening if I find the right person. And
I remember that was something I did learn from Anne, and for a period of time I did have somebody working with me, and what it did keep me more organized, because on Monday afternoons it would be like, oh, she's coming tomorrow. Need work for her to do, and she needs space in which to do it, not the way I climb over things.
Right. Yeah.
But I would also save like some bigger things like double width panels or something to have another set of hands to help me move things. And those were the times where I was happy to have somebody in my workroom with me, even though, I've talked many times about not wanting to be a manager, but having somebody who can help me out, and sometimes having company in the workroom is nice too.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a few people, my mom came to help me once, and she's like, oh yeah, anytime you want me to come, I'll come over. And I had her help me cut and hem lining. And she lasted about an hour and a half and was like, I'm tired. This is hard.
It is hard work. What we do is physically hard work. That's true.
And then some Gail Healy from our WCAA group, she's come a couple times and just helped me on big cut days. And it just is so much faster. It's great.
Yes.
So
I know sometimes just having somebody across the other side of the table, we're both cutting, and you just slip it up, and the next one, it really does make a difference. Lindsey, in what ways are you resilient?
I think I've always found ways to start again. Like, I just feel like I have that resource bank that I go back to. And I say, okay, this isn't working. Let's go back to our toolbox, and really figure out, and I have this mental catalog of like what has worked for me, what doesn't. And in life too, like I just saw myself getting in the habit of applying for similar jobs. I was like, well, I know what that life looks like for me, and I know that I won't be happy, so I maybe should try something else.
But there's a comfort level. Even I was just reading something about this, or listening to a podcast, one or the other, about we repeat some, I don't want to say bad habits or bad behavior, because applying for the same jobs is not bad behavior, but There's some comfort in it because
Yeah.
it's what we know.
Familiar. Yeah.
Yes, it's familiar. And trying out something different is not. And there's discomfort there that we associate with a bad feeling. And I remember hearing once, if you could turn it around, say it's not fear, it's excitement, because they physically in the body, they feel very much the same. I'd be like, oh, that's kind of an interesting take on that. I never thought about that. But you're right. Having that toolbox of things to sort through and go, well, I know that one doesn't work for me. So how about if I don't do that one again?
Yeah.
I love that. Lindsey, I know that you are on Facebook and Instagram, and I am going to have you pronounce your business name.
It's Kronhouse Custom Works.
Okay. I was saying, you sent me a pronunciation guide. I was saying it right, but with a last name like DeGuglielmo, I like to have people say it for me. So I will put links to both of those in the show notes for people. I would love to know, what advice would you give to someone new like yourself, or to someone who's been around for a while?
I think finding a group of people that you feel 100% confident in sharing, being open with, sharing, and also feeling like you have something to give back to them is so important. It just gives you like safe space to learn and ask questions. I know there's so many groups on the internet, in the library. I've loved the library for being so so many resources, but also like it's a pretty intimate group of people
it's
on
a good community.
Yeah. And then, just going out there and meeting people that you might connect with, or you might not. But that's been really helpful, is like, I've met a lot of people who are also new in the industry, and it's been great to get to know them. And we have things to learn from each other, even though we're all new,
Right.
It's been great. So
that's awesome.
That's my advice. Yeah.
Lindsey, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. This has been fun.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I always love to hear that. Thanks, Lindsey. I really hope that you enjoyed hearing from Lindsey today. It's so rewarding to me to hear newer, younger people coming into our industry and understanding the amount of research that she put into making this decision to open her own workroom, and how smart she's been about the education and in running her business well. So I really hope you enjoyed hearing from her today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day.